Welcome back to Close to Broke. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie to you, my session has already started, but there's more than meets the eye. We came to hang out with our friends in poker, and they needed somebody to sit down, and they asked and almost pleaded for me to play. I guess I am that bad at poker. Anyways, jokes aside, we already started playing. This is kind of like it's a mid session, but I had to tell you guys I'm playing poker. The game's shorthanded. I've got to get in the game. Poker right now. We're playing with Ethan, Mariano, Dentist Dave, some of my favorite people in the poker world, and you know they're my friends. So hopefully there's some blood to be shed, and hopefully we're the one making some money. We've got to get back to the hustler now. Let's hop in. Today's episode 10, 20, 40, 80. The Hustler Casino. Let's party. Let's go.
Without further ado, let's hop into this session. In this very first hand under the gun, it makes it $120 to go, as there's a $40 big blind or third blind out there. The button makes a call. I'm in the small blind, and I look down at the old Jack 8 of hearts. Seems like a good hand to at least peel. It's okay to be a little passive here. Dentist Dave in the big blind decides to call as well. We're going three ways off to a flop. That's a pretty good one for us, as it comes ace, deuce, queen, two hearts. Outside of flopping the nuts here with a straight or something, feels like a pretty good spot. We flop a bunch of equity. The action checking over to the initial raiser, the action's checked. Luckily for us, the button checks it back, and we're going to be able to realize some equity by virtue of the king of clubs. At this point, we can consider doing a couple of different things. Leading out seems okay sometimes. Obviously, sometimes our opponent can be trapping with a hand like Jack 10, but hey, we blocked that. So let's start a little value semi-bluff raise bet. We're not raising. I bet 300. It's crazy that just a couple days ago, or like a session ago, a $300 pot was a big pot. And now I'm betting 300 as the first bet to go into this pot post-flop. The big blind Dentist Dave makes a call. We're going off to a river card that comes a queen of spades. We don't improve here, which is obviously not what we wanted. With over $1,000 in the middle, I think I'd be a fool not to at least make the effort to go for it. The only problem is Dave knows that I've got a little bit of crazy in me. So, although I'm battling a couple demons inside my head, I realize that, look, this seems like a good spot to go for it. I block a hand like Queen Jack, although I probably will never honestly bet that on the turn. But we do flop, or at least block, I should say, a hand like Jack 10. All that to be said, Dave thinks about it for a bit before deciding to fold. Hard to tell whether that was a tough roll for him, or maybe he was drawing out as well, but nonetheless, Jack high, can't complain. Let's take down the first pot. Spoiler alert, nothing in today's session will come easy. The swings will be pretty big. I promise you, this is one of the most exciting episodes, or fun ones at least I've had, vlog-wise. Either way, in this next hand, I'm on the button and I look down at king queen suited, or off suited I should say. I race to 120. Both the blinds call. We're going off to a flop here that comes ace king 9 with two spades and a diamond. The action ticking over to me. This is a good spot to just check it back. We have a really strong middle pair here. We can withstand multiple streets of bets if we have to. So we're going off to a turn card that comes e7 of clubs. At this point, the action ends up checking at me once more. So I bet pretty small for 120. At this point, the small blind folds, and then the big blind raises to 400. A little scary, but not going to be ever folding this hand, so I make the call. Went off to a river card that comes e5 of hearts. Not the best card in the world, because a hand that might have been semi-bluffing, like a straight draw, like 6-8 of spades, maybe was getting a little frisky on the turn, and now gets thrown the river. But all of that being said, it's a pretty easy one when the opponent checks the action to me. I think betting here on the river, it would actually be a really high-level play to go for some thin value. Looking to target a hand like King Jack, King 10, Jack 10, or Jack 9, I should say. But in real time, I think I'm just happy to take my hand to showdown. It would suck to get double check raised in the same hand, so I just snap check it back, and my opponent shows King 8 off. King 8 off is no good. We end up taking our second pot down of the night. The action continues to go, as at this point we're playing 5-handed. When I joined the game, we were already super short, like 6-handed maybe, so here we are. Players are falling quickly as we're getting later into the night. I decided to open it up here to 120. The button decides to make it a 4-bet of 400. The button has a name. His name is Dentist Dave. The action folded back to me with Jack 8 of spades. Either way, we're going off to a flop that comes ace 9 7. With nearly $1,000 already in the middle, we check it over to our opponent, who downbets at 300. Against this sizing, a raise might be okay. The only problem is that we don't have 4 clean outs here. There is obviously a flush draw on board. Although we do have a backdoor flush draw, I think that if we raise and get jammed on, we obviously just don't get to realize any equity. So for the small price of a third of the size of the pot, a call seems fine. We're going off to a turn card, and we improve in our hand strength, but not in the way we were hoping, as it comes at Jack of Hearts. It brings in the front door flush draw, obviously brings in some straight draws, but gives me second pair. With the action checking over to my opponent now, Dave decides to bet out for a pretty meaty sizing now of about 1,000, going about 2/3 here. I think at this point the jig is completely up. If Dave is bluffing us, you just got to tip your cap off and give it credit to him. And if he isn't, we're really behind. Either a flush has us drawing stone dead, or we're up against a hand like top pair, good kicker, or 2 pair already, and we're just not loving life. So I go ahead and throw my hand into the muck, and luckily, because Dave is the homie, Dave shows us his hand, and all he had was top set. Obviously bluffing with top set on the turn there, right? Jokes aside, good hand to you, Dave. Unlucky for us, we're moving on. The session continues to build some excitement here as we're under the gun and we look down at Queen 10 of spades. I raise to $120, and the straddler is none other than the man, the myth, and legend himself. Ethan Rampage Poker is in the straddle, and he calls. The flop comes out 10-5-5. Feels good to run good against a friend here, especially Mr. Ethan. With 2 diamonds on this flop here, I think betting a little bit bigger makes sense. Going half pot seems okay, probably. I bet 160, and Ethan makes a call. Going off to a turn card that now comes the 6 of clubs. An interesting card, as it probably brings in some backdoor straight draws that my opponent could have. If he had had like 7-8 of diamonds, 9-7 of diamonds, 9-8 of diamonds, all those hands now pick up some extra equity. All that being said, with the action checked over to me as 2 10s are accounted for, I decide to raise to 600, or not raise, I should say overbet. Ethan thinks about it for a brief moment before deciding to make the call. At this point, I'm looking to fade all diamonds and all straight cards on the river, and it looks like we fade none of that. The straights come in and the flushes come in by way of the 3 of diamonds. Obviously, one of the worst cards we could have asked for on the river, but my opponent, Ethan, decides to check it over to me pretty quickly. I think our hand would be ridiculous to bet for value, and even more ridiculous to bet here as a bluff, so I decided to just pretty quickly check it through. I still expect it to be good some portion of the time. I think Ethan would definitely be value betting better, and I was correct. As I check down, and my hand does not lose, but it doesn't win either, as Ethan shows King or Queen 10 of clubs. What the heck? Definitely wasn't expecting that, but hey, you know, everyone loves a chop pot, especially against a friend. Well, let's put aside all this Mr. Nice Guy stuff. I'm over chopping. I'm looking to win some pots. In this next hand, once again, I'm going to be going to battle with one of my best friends in poker. As a button, Mr. Ethan makes it $120. The action's on me here in the small blind. I look down for 5 of diamonds. Probably plays best as a 3-bet if I'm going to be putting any money in with 5 high. Some aggression makes sense, but here I go, putting in money a little passively. The big blind and the straddle call as well. We're going 4 ways off to a flop that is damn near perfect as it comes ace, queen, deuce with 2 diamonds. Flopping a gutter ball to the nut straight as well as a flush draw. Mr. Ethan, who decides to c-bet for 120. A small sizing here, going about 1/4 of the size of the pot. And with this opportunity, I think I'll allow myself to raise here. With a hand that contains this much equity and so much opportunity to make the best hand, feels like a good idea to raise. So I make it $500 to go, looking to get all my opponents behind me to get out of the way, which does end up working out in our favor, as everyone except for Ethan folds. We're still going heads up to a turn card that comes the Ace of Hearts. This now sucks. It sucks so much. With about $1,500 in the middle, I'm now in a tough spot where the top card pairs, and it's kind of hard to rep a whole lot. I had a similar spot like this in my last session where I had a bluff and I didn't really know what to do, but this time around, I'm not absolutely airballing with nothing. I have a hand that has some equity. Either way, Ethan decides to call my $240 bet. We're going off to a river card that, once again, just sucks. The deuce of clubs. Double pairing the board here, it's going to be impossible for me to have any value here now as a hand like ace deuce, which I was repping. Makes it even less likely now. I'm chopping with all aces if I were to have an ace, so I'd probably check call this now. Seems like a slam dunk check give up. it sucks being put on the river with the bottom of range, the worst hand I'll ever have, and not even having the opportunity to bluff at it. But with the amount of money left in my stack, I just don't think that I have even remotely enough money to get Ethan to fold anything. So I just give it up here, wave the white flag. I'm not proud of it, but it is what it is. Ethan checks back and pretty quickly shows king queen off. Unfortunate for us there, but at least we went for it. Well, it seems like today's episode should just be called Ethan, because it's just the only person I've been finding myself getting entangled with. In this next hand, once again, we find ourselves playing against Mr. Rampage when I race to 120 and he calls once again from the straddle. The flop comes out 9-4-3 rainbow. A pretty good board for us. Flopping an overpair with 10s feels like a miracle at this point. With the action checked over to me, I think a bigger c-bet probably is the best option here. I bet 140. Ethan seems to be physically thinking out what to do when he decides to land on the old raise. He makes it 500 to go. At this point, I'm a little perplexed. I don't know what hands would be raising this flop here. Maybe 3s or 4s, but I'm honestly not too sure. All that to be said, I think we have a pretty slam dunk call, which I go ahead and do. And the turn card comes E7 of hearts, bringing that backdoor flush draw as we mentioned. Ethan decides to bid out for $1,000. Once again, he's not shying away from the action. He's definitely pressing the action, if anything. But once again, I think we have a pretty clear-cut call. It sucks that it's hard for us to improve on any river. Even a 10 is not the best card in the world, but here we are calling with an overpair, hoping to fade the river, and fade we don't as it comes the 8 of hearts. At this point, I have about $3,500 or $3,600 in my stack when Ethan decides to throw in 3 chocolate chips, which is $15,000, which has me covered. I go into the tank for probably an unrealistic amount of time. It's honestly probably offensive that I went into the tank this long, but I'm deep in the tank, like 3 minutes or something. I don't know what to do. It's a tough spot where I don't like being in. It's uncomfortable. It's against my friend. It's against a good player putting me in a tough spot. We now have to think about the bluffs our opponent can have, and there's just not a whole lot that I can think of. Outside of specifically a hand like ace-5 of spades, I just don't see that being turned into a bluff often enough, or maybe a hand like... I literally can't think of another hand. It's tough. No one likes folding over pairs, but when we don't have the 10 of hearts, it just adds another combination of holdings for my opponent to have for value as far as it pertains to a backdoor flush. Once again, it sucks. I just don't think my opponent's going to be doing this with like a middle 2 pair. Bet, 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 or raise, bet, bet. Feels like a flush, a really strong straight, or top 2 pair or something like that. I really don't know. Maybe a middling set or a bottom set, but after quite a long tank, I fold face up. And luckily for us, because Ethan is a brother, he shows me his hand for the vlog and shows me 9-7 of clubs. So he got a little frisky there on the flop and binks the beautiful 7 of hearts there on the turn. Hard for us to put him on a hand like that, but all credit to him. Nearly got me to call off with a pretty bad hand. So things are not going really in our favor. We have shipped down to about 3,500, which is not even 100 big blinds in this game. We were into the game for 5,000, and before I even have the opportunity to add on, we find ourselves in another spot against the other vlogger that you guys may know, Mr. Mariano, another great friend of mine. Seems like our friends are coming out for blood today. When it folds to him in the small blind, and he raises to 160. With the action folded over to me in the straddle, we look down at ace king. Oof. A sight for sore eyes would be said lightly. I decided to 3-bet to 540. With the action back over to him, he pretty quickly decides to jam all in. I have about 3,500 to start the hand, about 3K behind. Pretty easy call. It's literally the easiest call I make in my life. And for maximum pain, although we don't even really think about it, or at least I don't, this is now one of the bigger plots I've played all year, at least in the no-limit non-bomb pot variety. Almost $8,000 in the middle, or 7,000-ish. Kind of a big spot for me. One-time dealer, and the run out comes ace king 9. Well, if we were behind, it's probably pretty good now. The turn card comes at 3 of clubs, and the river card's a little scary as it comes a jack of hearts, bringing in a backdoor flush draw, or a front door flush, and obviously jacks not beat us. But luckily for us, Mariano gives us the old table tap and lets us know it is good after a little bit of a funny back slow roll. He wasn't slow rolling, obviously I won the hand, but happy to take a massive double up there. At this point, we'll take it however it can come. So just like that, a quick turn of things. The excitement is through the roof. And this next pot, we find ourselves in probably the biggest double board PLO bomb pot, at least pre-flop I've ever played. $200 is the price of entry. There's freaking 5 players in here, $1,000 in the middle, hoping somehow we flop some action. Our hand is king 5 4 4. We do have the king high flush, or diamonds, I should say. The top board comes out jack 9 8 with 2 diamonds, so we flop ourselves a flush draw. And the bottom board gives us bottom set on ace 8 4. With the action on me, this seems like a great spot to put money in, so I make it $400 to go. Dentist Dave is next to act, and he thinks that $400 is an absolute disrespect to poker, and he raises to $1,500. The action folds back to me, and considering I only have about $6,000 in the middle, after a little bit of negotiation, it seems like it's okay to get it all in. I jam all in for $6,000. Dentist Dave quickly makes a call, and just like that, yes, just like that, there's over $12,000, $13,000 all-in pot, double board PLO, absolute madness, 5-digit pots. What the hell is going on? The top board comes out with a jack of spades on the turn and a king of clubs on the river. Not that great. And the bottom board comes out with the ace of diamonds on the turn, giving us a boat, and then a queen of spades on the river. Our opponent ends up showing ace 10 7. I forget the last card. So he ends up showing trips on one board, which we luckily beat with the boat, and he beats us with our pair of kings as he shows the straight on the top board. That sucks. That would have been a really good one to scoop, over $13,000 in the middle in that pot, but here we go. At the end of the day, it seems like, once again, we're okay, because everyone loves a chopped pot. Wrapping today's session up with one last hand here. Although it's been super swingy, and there's been a couple of spots where, you know, I got 3-bet and called and had to fold flops, we're sitting at just above our starting stack, which is always good. This next hand, the button makes it $120 to go. The button has a name. His name is Ethan. The small blind, which is me, Mr. Kieran, I make the call, and the big blind calls as well. The 3 musketeers here, Dave, Ethan, and Kieran, going off to a flop that comes out 10-4-4. We have king 9 offsuit, not the best hand in the world, but here we go. The action ends up checking through. Luckily for us, the turn card gives us the nut blocker as it comes the ace of diamonds. And I decide to lead out for $200. The big blind folds, and then Ethan decides to make the call. Looking to bomb on any river, whether it gives me the best hand or not. And this time around, it doesn't, as it comes at 3 of hearts. Earlier, we were put in a tough spot where I had to give up on a bluff against Ethan, and this time, it seems like I'm going to have to be put to the test and make a really big bluff. I decide to go for an over pot size bet of $1,200. I've got to put him to the test here. If I can somehow get him to fold a 10, that's kind of what I'm mostly targeting. And obviously all pairs is technically what I'm targeting here. But after a little bit of a moment, Ethan decides to let it go. Luckily for us, we end up today's session with a small win on this last hand. Feeling really happy and really thankful that I could even sit down and play on what most people dream of doing. It's can't be given or taken for granted, I should say. I only get this opportunity thanks to all the lovely people that support and watch these vlogs. So if you guys haven't done so already, it'd mean the world to me if you guys would drop a like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know how you guys like the action. You know, $13,000 pot, playing an all-in pot with Mariano, as well as getting frisky with Mr. Ethan. It was just a wonderful session. Dentist Dave brought out the guns as well. Yeah, a really special session. I'm really happy to have played it for y'all. You guys like seeing stuff like this. The only way I can continue to be and be in spots like this is if you guys continue to help us grow. Either way, we've got to talk more at the end of today's session, so let's start over now.
I can do this with my eyes closed. It's too easy.
What the heck just happened? Guys, I don't know if you guys realize, I mean, I'm sure I mentioned in the commentary, but I wasn't supposed to play poker today. There was literally zero poker on the agenda for the day. I came to hang out with my friends, and it ended up having me playing poker in a pretty big game. It was a 10, 20, 100, 10, 20, 40, 100, or 80, depending on what was going on. It was crazy. What the heck just happened? We just played some of the biggest stakes of my life. Granted, you guys saw a little swingy. Man, what the hell just happened? That was the weirdest poker vlog we've ever put out, and by far and away probably the most special and exciting one. I got to play poker with my best friends in poker, and I got to hang out with my friends, and I didn't lose. Funny enough that all the people that were left in the game that racked up, everyone lost except for me. I did okay, but didn't win a lot. We were into the game for 5,000 and out for exactly 5,700. You know, not the best session money-wise, but hey, we'll take a win. We were down in the dumps for a second, and we got a big double up against Mariano there. What a session, what a day. I'm pooped. It's 2:10 a.m., so it's time for me to go home and go to sleep. I can't thank you guys enough for watching these episodes and these videos. If you guys like stuff like this, if you guys want to see me keep continuing to play this big, you know, just let me know. Let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know where you guys want to see me play. WSOP is coming up soon. There's so much to talk about. If you guys ever want to play with me on Club GG, link is in the description. Otherwise, I love you all dearly. Stay happy, stay healthy, more importantly, run good to the tables, yo. Deuces.
And I'm a self-made man out of Sweden, and it's still off top, I'm tweaking. But I still gotta fight my demons. I ain't no good, I'm evil. I ain't been clean since Eden. It's a war going on outside, make you put your hands on your head like the Macarena. That's why I gotta watch my demeanor. You know they locking up blacks and Latinos. It's the same old game, ain't nothing really changed but the mileage on the meter.